Hello, I'm back. I would like to talk today about birth order, which is the energy of the firstborn child. In Sleep Magic, in my book, Sleep Magic, Surrender to Success, I have a whole series of spells, I call them assignments in the book, but that's just because I didn't want to scare anybody off thinking it was actually witchcraft, heaven forfend. But I have a bunch of spells that address the energies that we take in when our mother is carrying us in utero, because much of the programming that we carry in our bodies comes from those however many months we spent in our mother's uterus. Because, as Candace Pert mentions in her book, The Molecules of Emotion, every change in the mother's chemistry is experienced chemically, biologically, by the fetus that she carries. So much of whom we come out into the world being at that tender young age is already formed, has been formed by what we picked up from our mothers. Now, that happens to everybody. Every pregnancy is different. Every mother brings something different to every child that she has. It is why centuries ago even, people were always telling pregnant women, to put themselves in good circumstances, don't get into arguments, don't get into fights, don't be in pleasant places, listen to nice music. That's always been known, that the mother's condition affected the child. It had never been known that it affected it in the ways that it does, which is quite specific. And the first child, being the first, gets a bigger dose than anybody else. That's because pregnancy itself is an unknown for the body that hasn't been pregnant. And because the growing fetus is, for all intents and purposes, a little parasite, and it is. If you don't get enough calcium, you will lose teeth matter and bone matter, because the fetus will take that calcium. It's a little parasite growing inside you. So the body itself has responses to that, and the body, never having experienced that before, is going to shift gears in a way that may express at a very, very low level, like a kind of a fear. That fear can then amplify other fears in the mother. Pregnancy for the first-time mother is a walk in a different world. If you haven't experienced being pregnant, I don't believe there's any way that would allow you to understand the depth and complexity of how that feels, both physically and emotionally. It's a remarkable condition. But because it is a new condition, many things come up internally, chemically, emotionally, mentally, that don't come up in pregnancies following, unless, for instance, the pregnancy is a difficult one. And then the second pregnancy, of course, is going to carry all the anxieties that were created in the first pregnancy, because is this one going to turn out that way? And those things affect the child. It is often said that the first child comes out eventually, as it matures, to be more self-confident, more sure of itself, more likely to be a leader than the others. Part of that may be because out in the world, it is the oldest, and therefore the smaller ones would naturally follow. But part of it as well, I think, is because it has taken in utero, a much more complex mix of things from the mother, and has had to learn to deal with those things as the mother learns to deal with those things. Because the ideal mother does, of course. Not that anybody's ideal, but again, we do the best we can. So, as I learned to cope with my fears that this was going wrong, or that was going wrong, or the other thing was going wrong in my body, when in fact they were all normal permutations of pregnancy, my little growing son in my body was learning too about overcoming things. That makes him different, shall we say. Perhaps more thoughtful, perhaps more mature automatically. First children simply have a greater challenge to deal with that begins before they are ever born. And then there's life. So that's it. If you're a first child, or you know one, you can probably pick one out of a crowd of people. Oftentimes, I know when I'm speaking to people that they're a first child. I can tell. It's not that difficult to discern. But this is why it happens. It happens because they deal with challenges in a greater amount and at a deeper level than the children that follow them. They are, in a sense, how do you say it, opening the path. They are the adventurers that go forth and create a path where others can follow more easily. So that's that. And I just wanted to bring it up for those out there who are firstborns, primarily, and perhaps for some people who have to deal with them. They can be a little full of themselves sometimes. So that's it for today. That's a simple one. And if you have interest in learning more about the programming of the body and how we become who we become, which isn't technically an alternate reality. I mean, for some people, certainly I'm sure they think that I'm just in a completely other reality when I'm talking about that. But let me know. Email me or message me on YouTube and let me know you'd like to know more about programming. I'd be happy to bring that to you. I think it's essential information for everyone. That's why I wrote Sleep Magic, just so everyone could have that kind of information easily and inexpensively. Well, thank you for being my audience. I'm so grateful. Bye.